everyone. I'm Heather Pritchett, Director of Customer Voice for OutSystems, and as you're hearing, this session is a little bit of an experiment. So, the rest of the Customer Voice team, they are not located in the US, and we're about a week too early for them to get here fairly easily with restrictions, and it's really important that they are part of this conversation because this is really them sharing some deeper insights about their hard work, their accomplishments, and the recognition that's coming from the work that our team is doing, scaling our advocacy programs in a very high-growth company. So we've been working very hard to meet increasing demands for customers, looking for new ways to, to optimize our processes and work with our internal stakeholders, and that's what we're going to spend most of the time talking about today. So let's see if we've got everything working properly. We did some testing during lunch if you were here. I don't know if you heard that. Hello everyone. I guess I have to wave this way. Hi team. All right, I think we're ready to get started. I just need the clicker. Yeah. Okay.
When I ask one of them to say something, make sure we can hear them.
Yeah. Who wants to come off mute and say hello?
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Awesome. This is working. Okay. Yeah. Bear with us. Okay. You're good. Perfect. Okay. So this is what we're going to talk about today. I am going to go very quickly through some introductions and context setting about how we got started in advocacy, and then I'm really going to turn it over to the team to talk about the work that they've been doing to scale some of our programs. Then we're calling that Getting to 100, and then I'll come back and wrap up with some lessons learned. So a quick introduction to OutSystems, just to give you some context. We are a software company, and we have an application development platform with about 1,500 customers across the globe in many different industries and many different uses of our product. Our two primary personas are IT decision makers and developers. Developers are the ones that are actually in the platform using our product on a day-to-day basis. And because if any of you have worked with developers or at IT, you know that they typically don't like being marketed to. So we have a team that is called Developer Relations that spend most of their time working with that group and the community. And we spend most of our time on IT decision makers. Although there is some overlap, so we have collaboration with that team as well. There we go. Okay, so a quick intro of our team. In addition to myself, as I said, they're all based in Europe and not here in the US. We have Mariam joining us from London, and she is responsible for our ambassador program, which is our global network of advocates, and also our reference program. We also have Marco joining from Lisbon, who runs all of our customer story operations, all of the assets that we are working with our customers to produce and tell their stories of success. And then we have Maria, also from Lisbon, who spends a lot of her time focused on taking all of those assets, packaging them up, making sure that they are distributed and visible to our field teams, and working with them to make sure they're getting the most out of them. So this is our North Star, really, is our team is really focused on helping or using customers to help influence all of our wins, whether that's new logos or expansion. And the way that we are organized around it and our focus areas are these three here. So awareness is a really key one for our company right now. So how can we use customer proof to support our brand positioning and get more awareness about systems in the market? And then the second one is around our ambassador program, engaging them, working on programs that will help them drive faster adoption and expansion, learn more about OutSystems and what other customers are doing, and then accelerating the buying cycle. So all of those reference assets, how can we make sure that they are enabled to our field to speed up those sales cycles. So from 0 to 100, as I said, I'm trying to go fast because I want to make sure the team has time to share the insights. I'll give you a little bit about our starting at zero backstory. So, like Connie was talking about in her last presentation, we actually were very lucky as well, where we had a very supportive CMO. Going back about 5 years ago, he recognized the need to leverage our customers to help support our growth, and that's when we started our advocacy program. And I got the opportunity to help build that out, and we started with 2 major programs, which really proved value very quickly. We built a CAB, and then the second one is our online review presence. At that time, Gartner Peer Insights was just starting to launch categories that were corresponding to their Magic Quadrants, and that was a key part of our goal, was to have a leadership position in the market, and those reviews would help support that. So those were the first 2 things that we did. We didn't start with trying to build out advocates or go straight to case studies or anything like that. Case studies had always been in the mix, of course, but we didn't have a formal program around it. So the results of those 2 programs that we were able to get off the ground very quickly caught the attention of the execs and the product. So I'm kind of going across the way that we started with the stakeholders. The execs very quickly saw value, of course, from a CAB, as most executives do. I'm sure that you find in your programs as well. But also the online reviews were very important because we've had great success with the analysts and our placements in the quadrants. And so we saw this as the voice of the customer backing that up, so it was very important to them as well. And of course, product was able to get really important insights coming out from both of those programs. And then we started working with the sales team and starting to build a reference program. We actually even launched a reference nomination contest, where we were just trying to start to build our advocate network, find out who our key customers were that were excited and wanted to do more with OutSystems, and that was quite successful and was a great foundation to building visibility with the sales team. And to reach that, we actually partnered with our field enablement team, and they've been a great stakeholder and a great partner with us, advising us on the best way to get all of these materials out to the team. And then finally, there's customer success, which probably most people would think would not be first, or at least earlier on. In our organization, around that time, the organization for customer success was just getting started, just getting formed, and it went through a lot of evolution and change over the past few years. So it's really been, the past year or 2 where we've started to put more structured programs and processes around with them, which are going really well, and you'll hear a little bit more about. So hopefully that wasn't too fast. I wanted to just get straight to turn this over to start with to Mariam Payne, who's going to talk about some of the things that she's been doing with our ambassador program.
All right, and can everyone hear me okay?
How's the sound for everyone? A little low.
Let me know when it's all good. And I can't hear the audience right now, so
I can hear you, but I can hear you, but I can hear you, but I can hear you.
oh wow. Just need an indication if I can get started or not. Okay, I think that's a yes. All right, so you can all hear me okay, see me okay. Thanks, Heather, and hi, everyone. I'm going to be talking about 2 topics today. Firstly, the importance of creating a great onboarding experience, and secondly, why you should focus as much, if not more, on the give versus the take when it comes to customer advocacy. These are both lessons that I've learned from my experience managing our ambassador program. So I'm going to share with you our journey in terms of getting to these realizations, from what our zero looked like to the critical changes we made to get closer to that 100, as we're calling it, and then of course the payoff that we're now seeing as a result. So having a customer join your advocacy program is definitely a win that you should celebrate, but it's really important to think of what happens next, right, in their immediate experience. It's really just as important. And in fact, I found it can directly influence how much or how little they engage with your program going forward. So creating a great onboarding experience is really crucial. You want to build an instant connection with the customer. You want to make them feel welcome and recognized. And importantly, you want to enable them to engage with the program right off the bat. You want them to get started. So now looking back, the zero for us didn't look great. We had no real onboarding process, to be honest with you. For example, I used to send welcome emails to new recruits manually once a week. I know that's not good. Introductory calls could take weeks to schedule, and ambassadors weren't sent any immediate recognition or appreciation upon joining. There was also no way a salesperson or CSM could see if their customer had joined the program. And although we did have a sign-up form, so yay, we had a sign-up form online, it didn't actually trigger any follow-up onboarding workflows. So it was a little bit pointless in some ways, or not optimized. And ultimately what I found was that I was only really building strong connections and seeing engagement from those customers who happened to be available early on for an introductory call. And I knew that I was risking losing interest from those that hadn't been properly onboarded via one of those calls. So that's why we decided to create and automate an onboarding process. So what changes have we made? Well, firstly, we had to set up things in the back end so that we could ultimately deliver a smooth onboarding experience on the front end. So we did a number of things. We created welcome email templates. Those could be sent via our marketing automation system, which is Marketo, if you're wondering which platform we use. We created an ambassador brand and a package of branded assets. So think of things like a logo, email signature, social post, etc., things that they could leverage. We also selected a gifting platform that could integrate with Marketo, and we created a welcome kit, which included some great branded assets and things. We also launched a dedicated communication channel for ambassadors. We used Slack. We chose to use Slack after an evaluation. And finally, we set up a new customer contact object in Salesforce. And this basically indicates to sales or anyone in Salesforce whether a customer is a member of an advocacy program or not. And that also feeds other systems like Gainsight, which is what our CSMs use. So what does this experience look like today? So now when a customer fills out the form online, they're sent an automated welcome email. And that has all the onboarding information. So this includes, for example, like a recap of the benefits they now have access to. It has a branded assets package that they can use. So for example, they can showcase that they're an ambassador. And obviously it has adjoining details for our Slack workspace. And that's a great one because it means that they immediately have access to the channel. They can jump on, they can welcome themselves. We have a welcome channel, and they can also see the latest updates from us because that's where we kind of share insider information with our ambassadors as well. In addition, if they indicated that they'd like to receive a welcome gift, a gift is actually now sent to them directly via Sendoso, which means no manual work from us, which is great. And finally, the great thing is that salespeople and CSMs can now see if their customer finally is a member of an advocacy program. And they can do so both in Salesforce and Gainsight. And all we have to do to basically make that available is when an ambassador joins a program, we check a box and add a join day. It's really that simple. And we can also do the same thing when an ambassador leaves the program or moves on to another company. So the important thing, what's the payoff, right? Well, we now see our ambassadors engaging with the program much more sooner. We also see them provide regular feedback about how valuable the program is. And it's really nice as well because we regularly get feedback, or I regularly get feedback that they feel proud to be part of the program. And that's a big win for us. And finally, the obvious takeaway is that when your customers feel valued, they're more likely to advocate for you. So it's a win-win. Okay, Heather, moving on to the next slide. All right, I'm sorry, now I talk fast, so sorry if I'm moving too fast. Now, I know I mentioned how important it is to engage your ambassadors right off the bat. Well, this is largely dependent on the benefits you're providing them, so AKA the give. And historically, we weren't doing enough in that department. We've been too focused on recruiting ambassadors to fulfill our advocacy needs, so the take, instead of creating program value, right, to recognize and reward our advocates for their support. I mean, they're doing so much for us, the least we could do is give a bit back, right? Now, we happen to be lucky enough to have just amazing customers who are pretty much always happy to advocate for us. A lot of them are just like that. And so it's great, but it doesn't mean that, you know, you should take advantage of that or take your customers for granted, your advocates for granted. By focusing on the give versus the take, you have a real opportunity to build on that relationship and increase customer value. So I'd say that's pretty much my gospel now. What else? I'm kind of always thinking, what else can we do to increase customer value? So you'll see here, I've got a few tips on how to get there or how we got there at OutSystems. So firstly, and I really want to stress this one, is get to know your customers and collect feedback. There's no point building out engagement programs without data to back it up, right, that it's worth doing. So an example is we have introductory calls, as I mentioned, with our ambassadors. That's when they first join the program. And this is a really great opportunity to ask what's important to them, and also find out, you know, what else can we be doing, right? What else can we be doing to help them get the most out of their experience with us? Another new thing that we've introduced is something that we call Know Our Ambassadors. And basically what this is across the team, we actually check in 20 minutes with our ambassadors. We set up calls with them. And it really is just a check-in to kind of find out how things are going, if they're receiving value, and if they're not, why not? What can we do to improve their experience? And I really recommend that for your advocacy group as a kind of ongoing connection point with your customers as much as you can. So once you've collected the feedback, it's really important to analyze and prioritize a few initiatives. Don't, you know, have this huge long list and get overwhelmed. Start with a few things that you think are really going to bring the most impact. So in our experience, VIP access to experts at OutSystems was the top one, as well as getting access to the product roadmap. And also the big one was peer-to-peer networking. So that's really where we focused first and foremost. Next big thing is partnering with other teams who can support you to bring those initiatives to life. So for us, that meant product teams, account teams, also other teams who had prior experience in launching these kinds of initiatives. And one thing I'd stress is it's really important to ask for help, to lean on teams who can validate your ideas, and use tools that are already available where possible, right? You don't always have to reinvent the wheel. Right, so you partnered with your teams. What's next? You need to finally execute and pilot those initiatives. And as I mentioned, start small, start with a few things. And what we really did was pilot. We didn't commit to, okay, ambassadors, you're now going to get access to X, Y, and Z. We started with a few things. And my advice here would be to make sure you can communicate well in advance. Make sure you're highlighting what's in it for them. Also ask them to invite their other members of their team along, right? It's a good opportunity for you to recruit more ambassadors. And if it's an event, make sure you send calendar invites. It's really important. Depending, obviously, you know, we all have different roles that we're targeting, but typically some of these people just don't have much time on their calendars. So get it on the calendar well in advance. And finally, adapt and scale as necessary. Be sure to ask for feedback so you know what's working and what's not. If things work, great, commit to a cadence. It's really great if you can give your advocates initiatives or events to look forward to. But also at the same time, if things aren't successful, that's okay. Try and tweak them. If you can improve them, if you're getting feedback, make those improvements. But also, you know, if you're finding that it's not working, it's okay to remove those if they're not adding value. Trust me, your ambassadors will just be happy that you're actually being responsive to their needs. And quite often they'll be willing to step up and help you out too. So where are we now? Well, I'm really proud to say that we have a full roster of engagement initiatives running here at OutSystems. So I'll try and quickly run through a few of these because I know some of you are looking for ideas. These have all been received really well at OutSystems, and also I'm happy to speak to anyone if they want some ideas in terms of how I got started, who you need to align with, and format and all those kinds of things. So a big one was quarterly product webinars hosted by our product management, sometimes also product marketing. We also, as I mentioned, launched an ambassador Slack workspace. That's really great because customers can connect with each other. They can also get updates from us as well. We have loads of execs on there from OutSystems, so it's a great opportunity for them to feel like they're closer to OutSystems. We also have regular live chats with our product teams. We call these Ask Me Anything sessions. Those actually take place on Slack, which is quite cool. It's a bit like a virtual group chat. Those are 30 minutes long. And we also have, really importantly, regular knowledge sharing meetings, which are hosted by our ambassadors. We call these ambassador exchanges, and they've been really, really popular. We normally see around 30 to 40 of our customers attend those live. And for our product webinars, we have kind of upwards of 50, and sometimes they bring along other members of their team as well. And finally, this is something new, and I wouldn't say we've had great success here yet. We're still trying to tweak it ourselves, but we also introduced a social media platform for our ambassadors. And what that has is kind of curated content that they can leverage, and basically helps them to easily share on their social profiles and ramp up their social profiles. And the payoff, well, it's kind of obvious, right? The more that you give, the more that you get. You really have an opportunity to directly influence a customer's satisfaction. You have an opportunity to influence their decisions, right, around whether they're going to renew or whether they're going to expand the usage of your product or your services. And as I mentioned before, you really have an opportunity to influence their likelihood to advocate for you. The cool thing is that we actually now have stats based on our real customer data to prove this influence. I'm going to let Heather share with you the actual stat with you later. It's really, really impressive, and we're really proud of it. But for now, I'm actually going to leave you with what our ambassadors have to say about the program. Hopefully we can get the sound to work. I don't think it's working for us virtually, guys. So I'm not sure if anyone attending virtually can hear the sound.
No, we cannot.
Okay, but they can hear it in the room. Well, maybe what we can do is we can post a quick link, and you can actually go ahead and see that. I think it's on our website now, or I can post a link to it. This is really new, and we're really happy to have these testimonials. So it's basically kind of awesome. It's our ambassadors just saying how much they love the program, how much value that they're seeing from it, and it's a really great tool. So anyone attending here, I'll drop a link so that you can see it. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Marco, who's going to share with you how we've turned around our approach to customer stories. So Marco, over to you.
Great, and hopefully the team can hear me. So it's really nice to be here. Thank you. I'm gonna tell you a bit of the journey since the inception. Great of this customer stories engine. So Heather, if you can turn to the next slide. That one, yeah, excellent. So I was just saying that our journey to establish this customer stories engine started back in early 2019, where we used to have a content team, and actually the case study was considered to be the jewel of the crown, and so we helped to learn. We partnered with the team to learn what could be improved to increase, in one hand, quantity, and in the other hand, quality of the stories that we were delivering, which actually led to delivering what ended up being a cornerstone for our team, which is that first milestone there, which is the customer story library. So we're talking about a simple spreadsheet with all the links categorized by customer name, industry, use case, company size, and all of those metadata that we all know. But it really did not exist, and it helped a lot to understand, as a starting point, to understand what could we target in terms of new opportunities and candidates for stories. So another big improvement was really related to the initial stages of the process, where we could sense from the team that resources were being somehow wasted because the customer was not ready to share publicly, and so the process got a little bit stuck on that front. So initial vetting and research preparation to maximize the interviews and make sure that opportunities move on and on the funnel were really critical for this. And this kind of is an excellent bridge to what I'm calling there the anatomy of the workflow. So we started really a journey to discover what else could be improved with the purpose of increasing quantity but also quality. So we then move on to a detailed end-to-end definition of the process, from qualification to scheduling an interview to running the interview to writing it and then getting approval, producing and distributing it. And we just created all of this set of checklists to stage by stage and even escalation protocols to get help from the account team. And so we ended up going all in Asana, as some of you have already shared. And it's actually our source of record for for all the opportunities for stories. Even if they are in pause for a while, we just resort on it to be able to not only know what's going on in a specific account, but also to provide visibility with threads to the entire organization beyond the marketing team, including the field teams. So another step that was really very important in this journey was really enabling different people and roles involved in this process to be able to scale the operation. So it was really down to enabling people to do some initial research and vetting opportunities, enabling interviewers to run interviews, and enabling writers to write the stories. So we could expand the capacity of the team. The next topic, internal and external impact, is really about, as we were getting this engine and team set up, we wanted also to start making an impact and delivering value. So we decided to release an initial asset for internal use only, for actually the teams in the field to learn and start by getting inspired by customer stories with what other customers are building with OutSystems. And last but not least, another huge important part of this engine was really measurement and reporting. We started by identifying the key milestones of the process that we want to track. We created this pipeline performance dashboard where we could easily see activity along this pipeline of stories, from qualification, going through scheduling, interviewing, writing, and so forth until distribution. And also the number of stories published by type, by month, and all of that, month, quarter, year, and even website and internal consumption. So we've set up, most of these tools to manage the process. And in the following years, a lot was produced, and we were able to go from 24 new case studies in 2019, which was already a huge increment comparing to the previous year, which was 9. And we ended up in 2020, being able to produce and deliver 44 new case studies, which is a lot and represents about 80% of increase since we started this team. And so just a final point before we move to the next slide is really this whole operation, if you will, had the premise that the case study is the jewel of the crown. And the jewel of the crown because we were able to get a lot of bits and pieces from the classic structure of a case study to then plug it into different ways. So we could use it internally for sure for our field to learn about OutSystems use cases. As Heather mentioned, we're a platform. We enable organizations to build whatever they want to build on our platform. And so this granularity of use cases is very good for our sales to do their jobs and sell into some accounts. But also we were able to use the challenges for example, customer product research and messaging, and also not to speak, of course, about impact and so forth, and quotes and getting the logo published and all of that. So all of that was really because we believed case studies are really a great source of information. But then, and Heather, if you can move into the next slide, please. We started to gear towards scale and impact. we started realizing that less actually could be more. So not only in regards of the simplification of this process that I just described to you and tools and stuff, but also by ensuring that the quality was there, resonating with the audience without necessarily incrementing the quantity of stories published. So we started by doing a couple of things that I am going to highlight here, and Maria João will also tell a lot of what we've done in this front, but I wanted to highlight a couple, some of them. And a huge part of this, shift in focus was possible by having full awareness of our content gaps. So by using our library of stories and some data mashup on Power BI, we were really able to create different matrices crossing this criteria, geos, industries, and detailed sub-use cases, enabling us to really clearly identify where we were really in need of stories and prioritize those against the others. And so we did it a lot with this, and increasing the the amount of stories being shared internally, and Maria will go there in a while. The awareness of our group started raising, and so we went from proactive hunting to reactive demand management. So it was really us really trying to make sure that we are leveraging all of that customer love, and we are very fortunate to have a lot of customers willing to share their stories, and the field very engaged with making their customer shine and so forth. So one of the things that we've been doing is really enabling field marketing and tightening those connections with the local teams so that we get those well-known customers that are in some specific regions or countries, and to handle provide them the ability to handle stories with local impact more than anything else. And so this has been proving a really an excellent way of not only focusing on high impact, but also getting those customers that sometimes are harder to get from a global perspective. Not to speak, of course, about our Innovation Awards, which is our annual customer program to celebrate the innovations. I guess all of us know how that goes. So we started more and more in a different way, leveraging those customers as a real source for additional stories and different formats. And this leads me to my final point here, that is really about a little bit of agile content production. So we've embraced this way of producing assets in a very light way, if you will, with self-recorded videos. I guess a lot of it with Slab 5 as well, helping us here. And a lot of other shorter stories like thought leadership, some quotes and things that are really some very, very simple to create, yet faster to get approval. So yeah, with this, I guess I've provided already a good overview of what was done until there. And so Maria, take it away.
Can you hear me well? Yes. Okay. So I muted I took the sound off the computer because I was hearing a lot of echo. So if anybody talks with me, please wave, somebody wave so that I know. So I'm going to talk a bit about how we boosted visibility and awareness of the work that Miriam and Marco were doing internally. So within our sales, customer success and marketing organizations. Next slide, Heather, please. Thank you. So this is an ongoing process, okay? It's that's why it's a wheel, right? We have an ultimate goal of reaching a self-service experience, but we know that this is always something that's ongoing. We start by a critical thing is to understand the needs, like was mentioned on the previous presentation. Working closely with field enablement, talking with sales, understanding what they need. this is really the first step to adjust the content that we produce to their needs. We did this in several ways. So we did surveys, we analyzed data whenever available. We are still doing a field listening tour, and with the results that we got, so with the feedback that we got, we did some adjustments to the content we were producing and to the things we were providing. Some of the things that we did, and probably there's a step missing in this wheel, we recategorized our library of stories completely to match the needs of salespeople. This was a huge undertaking, but we now have a really well categorized library. We also changed the distribution channels for when we publish a new case study, for instance. And as we do that, we are now ready to start showing off and bragging about the work that we do, right? And so some of the things that we have been doing to increase awareness and usage include a completely new e-learning path. I think this was one of the great things that we did for a number of reasons. First, because it's something that lives for a long time, right? So we did it once. We worked closely with field enablement to get it ready, but now it's there for every new employee to take and learn about the advocacy programs and to learn why it's important to use advocacy in their selling process. Other thing that we do is to be a regular presence in the agenda of field events. So again, working closely with field enablement. So as we see people coming to us more often, we had to have a channel for this, and so we created a Slack channel. We use Slack, as probably many of you, and so we created a Slack for people a Slack channel for people to come to us and ask for help in name drops, for instance, when they needed a customer proof point for a prospect or something. And it's an interesting journey to share the one of this channel, because it started like with 1 or 2 requests per month. And suddenly we saw ourselves with so many requests that we were spending a huge amount of hours in our week fulfilling these requests. We got what we wanted, which was awareness, but then we had a nice problem to tackle, which was how do we deal with all this? And so that led to a few different things. We realized that some of the requests were really common and came more than once. OutSystems is particular in the sense that it can be any type of product, right? So it's a software to build apps, so it can be any app. So it's infinite, the amount of things that prospects are looking for. And so, but we saw that there were some things and some particular use cases that were more frequent. And so we built story packages around those use cases. For instance, if a sales, a field services app, we built a package around that, or something like that. And then on the other hand, we tried, and that helped make life easier for us, because when people ask for that, we already have something ready. But also it encourages self-service, right? Because we have this available for the field, and they can go there and pick these stories and these collections themselves, and they already have it packaged. And the other thing that we did was to create like a repository of questions, right? So every question that we got, we saved it. We created like an automation to save it in a spreadsheet, and now we can go back there and fetch previous requests and just tag people on the thread. And instead of spending 20 minutes or something looking for stories, we spend 1 minute tagging a person in the request. And so I think we're never going to get to 100% self-service, right? There's always new people coming in, and even that, it's not probably like we saw yesterday on the battles, white glove battles. It's not the ideal scenario. For instance, for reference calls, we still provide a lot of support, but we're getting there by improving user experience in the tools that the field people use. and by also making these kind of packages. I think we can go to the next slide. Okay, so we still have some challenges that we're still trying to address in terms of process and tools. One of the things that it's probably common across many organizations is having a single source of truth, right? So Marco talked about the customer story library that we created, but we know that customer success also has their own things. We know that salespeople also have those their decks and things like that. And so how can we try to bring all this information into a single place? That's one of the challenges that we're working to address, and we're getting closer. Another one is publicity management, which is like which customers can we use the logo, which customers can't we, and another one is to kind of make sure that we can reduce manual work across all these things, right? And so the process and the tools that we use really need to and to address these challenges, and the ones that we have already figured out really need to serve people right first. So they need to make the job easier for us, and they need to provide value for the people that use them. So I think we can move to the next one. So this is, I think, an interesting exercise and to do. This is a little bit of our tech stack, and how different tools talk to each other, and where we have to do manual work. You can see the orange boxes. It's like manual work. We still have some disparate systems. That's black box over there in the middle. It's the customer success library, where they keep all the information that the customers are doing with OutSystems, and that we're actually trying to migrate our own spreadsheet into their tool. And this way we get closer to that single source of truth, and we get like information, and we get more intelligence, and we're also contributing to their to the rest of the organization by making our information available on their tools. I think this is very important. We are really trying, both on the ambassador front and both on the customer stories front, to make the information available for the field in the tools that they use. The ambassadors can be seen in Salesforce, they can be seen in Gainsight, they can be seen in custom tools that they use, and this is all integrated. So already we have a lot done in terms of automation and integration, but still there's some systems that don't talk to each other that we still need to improve. Either we can move to the last one. And so now we're this is sort of what we expect to achieve someday. Some things are closer, others are more wishful thinking, but we really can reduce manual work with this. We have more intelligence because we have things more centralized, and then and most importantly, we provide a better service without having so much effort. And I think that's mostly it. I mean, that I think that's it either from my end.
Oh, good. Okay. Can you give a thumbs up if you can hear us or hear me? Okay, good. Thank you. All right, thanks, team. As you can see, yeah, sorry. Every time that gets touched, I think it bounces it off. So as you can see, we've done a lot to try to scale up to meet the increasing demand that we have. Still a lot of work to do, so if you have ideas, we're certainly welcome. One of the things, just to wrap up, is the recognition. I think all of this is coming to fruition because of the value that we've been able to prove. We've got increasing demand constantly for customers. We've been moved to a newly formed corporate marketing team because the mission is to use customers to represent our company and communications. And then the stat that Mariam mentioned earlier is we did some analysis on our accounts, and the average ARR of accounts that have an ambassador is 253% higher than the average. And so we use that stat a lot because it gets attention, internally as to the value of these programs. So just to leave with a few testimonials, just wanted to share some kudos that the team has gotten. One is posted here from an ambassador who's just saying, thanks for this amazing program. But we also get a lot of comments from the field marketing, field enablement, sales, etc., just about the assets that we've provided. The Slack group that they were talking about gets a lot of appreciation and a lot of thanks for the work there. So just to wrap up with quickly with some lessons learned, I asked the team to pull these together. And you've heard this probably the first one pretty consistently, speaking the language of your stakeholders and being able to communicate with what value you're bringing to them very consistently. The importance of relationships, we've talked a lot about that the past couple of days. We recognize that as well. And as you heard Marco, we were scaling up to deliver all of these assets, and then we got to a point where less is more. Let's deliver more quality, more impact, things that are going to be used and not sitting on the shelf like we talked about. And then finally, Maria likes to say, we know that the saying is work smarter, not harder, but she likes to say work smarter before you work harder, because hard work is okay, but do it in a smart way, automate what you can, use processes to optimize what you can. So thank you for your patience. I know this session was a little bit different and with the logistics, but really hope that you just learned something from the journey that we've been on. So. Dana saying we can take some questions, and I completely failed with a thank you slide and a contact information slide. But we're all pretty active in the CustomerX community, and you can find us on LinkedIn. I think it's our profiles are in the presentation. So, questions, yes? I think one.
Get the mic screen, or just yell really loud. Mic for the mic.
Hi, thanks everybody for your input. Great presentation. I was wondering what you did in terms before you built the ambassador program. If you did any surveys or anything like that to identify what your customers want from the ambassador program.
So you mean before we actually built the program?
Before you even built it, what process did you go through to understand what your customers want out of an advocacy program?
Yeah, and I can take that one because that was when I had first started working in advocacy, and probably did it completely backwards. We started talking and looking at customers that were already naturally advocating by speaking at events and doing case studies. And then at that time we had an NPS, and so we started just reaching out to all promoters. Hey, join this advocate program. And then when I talked to them, that's when I really started to understand, what they wanted. And as Mariam mentioned, a lot of it came in. Some of them are just fans, like we've talked about. They just want to share what they're doing. They love your brand and your product. But the more and more we talked to them, we understood the value of the product roadmap, what's happening with OutSystems, getting access to the experts, talking to their peers. And that's when we really started to orient the program more about that than about, okay, who can we pull on for a reference or a speaker at an event, etc. Yeah.
Heather, really mature, marketing program. It's really nice to see sort of, you hit that tipping point, which a lot of good things come from.
Process.
Are you adding to your team, or is this sort of the max at this point?
So I forgot to mention, when we were talking about the team and the scaling, we have contractors. So we have a person that's been supporting our writing efforts for a long time, and we've had some help in operations management. This year we've had a couple of resources help scale out some programs, one of which is in this whole community. I don't think she's here today, but has been very impactful this year in the impact that we've been able to bring. Next year we're hoping that translates into full-time employees.
And on the slide with 253%, is that more of a cause or an effect?
We've had that same conversation.
Number, but I would argue that anybody with a higher RR is more likely to become an ambassador. So you're going to have some of that just built into it. And so are you able to really figure out what is really the upside as opposed to the 253 number?
Yeah, definitely. We've had that exact same conversation a lot internally, even with our executives as well. But what we've taken away from it is there's only goodness for having them in the program. So now we're starting to look at next year some of the things like that Dean and Liz were talking about yesterday. How do we start to get, especially some of our tech touch customers that don't have CSMs, engaged in some of this, because it can impact and speed up their adoption and expansion, which is a huge goal for us. So yeah, good points.
All right.